devastated and never saw it coming. And so then I had this whole other experience of infertility in a way, like I had finally been successful in the one way, and then I had this like door slammed in my face of like, this is a test you never get to get an A on.
Are you a breakfast eater?
Definitely a diehard breakfast eater.
Yeah? And so did you eat breakfast today? Because I know you flew here today, so did you? Yeah.
I did eat breakfast today.
Okay.
It was really exciting. It was a bar. It was
a bar?
A perfect bar.
Oh, okay. That's not really exciting. What's your normal breakfast?
So my normal breakfast is like 5% more exciting. My normal breakfast is a peanut butter English muffin while I'm getting my son breakfast. He has the same thing. And then I take him to school, and then I have a protein bar.
Well, I gotta tell you,
and it's the same every day.
You were our first peanut butter English muffin breakfast on the show, so
I might be having one tomorrow.
Yeah,
I know you have like a lot of smoothie people, right?
Yeah, and oatmeal.
Oh, that's right.
Smoothie and oatmeal and like egg white something.
Yeah. No. Oh, egg. No.
Yeah.
Like I don't turn on a stove to do anything.
But we are in LA.
That's exactly. I know. Break the mold a little. Seattle people just eat bars.
Right. I actually had a bar this morning for breakfast, so nice. I was feeling it. So I am Laura Cathcart Robbins. This is the only one in the room, but I am never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend and producer and co-host Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Listeners of the surrounding cities.
Wow, thank you, Fran. Keep sharing the podcast, and we'll have to find a way to show our gratitude.
Yeah, actually, Fran, hit us up with a list of everyone you shared our podcast with. We'll send you one of our hottest merch items from the only one in the room.
Yeah, we can send you like a t-shirt, which is really my favorite, or a tote bag, or my absolute favorite, the Hun hat.
The Hun hat. I like the coffee mug and the tote bag. And the shirts.
Yeah.
Fran will look good in a shirt.
They're all good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our guest today is none other than the imitable, exciting, and wildly popular podcaster, Miss Sara Dean. Sara Dean had me on her podcast, which is called the Shameless Mom Academy, the best name ever. And we hit it off so well that she offered to fly down here today from Seattle and be our guest.
Yeah, what an honor for us. And we're really excited. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Very cool.
I am going to introduce you so that we can get to your only one story.
Great.
Which we didn't discuss. We will.
Do you want to pause and
Yeah.
talk about it real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just assumed from our other conversation.
You can roll it or cut it.
I was going to have
it doesn't
you
matter.
talk
But we're pausing.
about infertility.
Yes.
You gotta,
So I'm going to ask you to finish the sentence.
am I
I'm
teeny?
the only one in the room.
No, we're just going to put you. Thank you, Daniel.
I do have a child.
I think
Right.
I'm done now.
Are you going to say
thought I was
done
going
for
to
like
look over and you're going to be
45
standing over there or
I
something.
thought about leaping across the room and shoving it in his face like I did that other time.
Did it sound like I was in the other room? Is that what you said?
What?
Yeah.
Okay,
See, I'm the icebreaker, really. It's all
You-
about
you are,
me.
honey.
Every single time, it's me.
I'm getting you a t-shirt that says icebreaker.
I am the icebreaker.
All right. So Sara Dean is the creator and host of the Shameless Mom Academy podcast, a top-rated podcast with over 1 million downloads that we're really jealous of.
Mm-hmm.
Her biggest passion is helping women own their space. After enduring a long infertility journey and then a full-blown identity crisis following the birth of her son, Sara took her background in psychology, health, wellness, and rebuilt her identity one step at a time. Today, Sara motivates and inspires women to stop shrinking and start growing in every aspect of their lives. She is on a mission to inspire women and moms in particular to live bigger, bolder, braver, #everydamnday. Sara has built 3 successful businesses in the last 17 years. She built and recently sold an award-winning gym in Seattle. Her podcast is a top-rated show on iTunes with listeners in over 140 countries. She leads a private online community of thousands of shameless moms, including me. In addition to her international army of shameless moms, Sara coaches other shameless mama business owners to build thriving businesses they truly love.
Welcome. Thank you again for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So before we actually start, I want to give a shout out to Stephanie Wilder Taylor.
Yes.
So she was one of my first guests on The Only One in the Room, and we're actually just re-released her episode because it was one of our biggest listener favorites.
So good.
Yeah. And whether she knows it or not, she's the one who's responsible for bringing the two of us together.
Because I'm her super fan.
Yes.
She doesn't know that either.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare her away by letting her know that I'm a super fan.
I'm kind of her super fan too, but she was also my writing teacher.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right. I love that.
I can fangirl her up close,
Right.
which is
I know, I'm
pretty
jealous.
cool.
This
Yeah.
is really just a play for me to get closer to Stephanie Wilder Taylor.
We should have had her surprise guest. That would have been really cool. Can you
A little
call
pop
her
in.
on?
I'll get her on.
Text
She
her right
never
now.
returns text, actually. So.
I know we should live stream this and,
All right.
shout her out.
That'd be so great.
Yeah, we're gonna do that right now. Okay, let's see if we get Stephanie to the W Hotel in time for this podcast before it's over. Can you, Sarah, finish the sentence for me? I was the only one in the room who
couldn't have a baby.
I'm really glad that you're going to talk about your journey with infertility because no one's ever talked about it on the show before. And it's something that I really want to know more about. I want to hear more about it. I want people to talk more about it. So let's just start with what do people not know about infertility? Like, what toll does it take on you physically, emotionally?
Sure. So I think what was surprising to me about infertility was the exhaustion and relentlessness of it. I think that's a lot of it. I think it's such a hidden thing that so many women can be going through and no one knows. And so that part is really challenging. The emotional or the physical toll can look like a lot of different things depending on what stage you're at and what your situation specifics are like. I think one of the surprises to me was that I still feel like I'm recovering from to some extent is the decision fatigue. It's constant decision making, and those decisions all impact your marriage, your finances, your emotional state, your physical state. Like, it's just decision after decision that always has some sort of cost associated with it. And that over time, I mean, for us, it was over the course of 6-ish years. And that's very, very draining and very exhausting.
And you're saying it always has a cost associated with it. I know there's tremendous financial costs.
Yeah.
But then you're also talking about the cost
Yes,
on your relationship,
Yeah.
on your body,
Right. And your mental health. Yeah.
And and as you're talking, it occurs to me that this is something that people who live at or below the poverty line probably don't even get that choice, right?
Yeah, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because my thing, having been through this and been through infertility in multiple facets, which I'm sure we'll get to, is that it is big business that is designed for rich people.
Yeah.
And infertility clinics there's no end to the amount of money that they will take from you. And there's no limit to how much you can spend in terms of, like, there's always more options that always come in the form of thousands of dollars. And so, yeah, if you don't have the financial resources, then you don't get to play that game. And so it's definitely, that was something that became harder and harder for me going through that process, is feeling grateful that I had the options that I did, but recognizing that a lot of people don't have those options.
Well, and I wonder if there'll ever be kind of a movement to bring some kind of equity to it.
Yeah, there's definitely insurance companies that are starting to step up and cover certain things. I know.
Good.
So I'm up in Seattle, and Microsoft, I believe, is one of the first companies that has some coverage along in that area. And there's more and more big companies that are starting to, like, cover IVF and those kinds of things. At the time that we went through everything that we went through, we didn't qualify for anything. We were self-employed, and we just got to pay all the money.
Yeah, I mean, and I've had several dear friends. Well, I've actually had 3 dear friends and then several friends that have gone through it, and you know, it's just, some of them is just to the limit of their bank account. Like,
Yeah.
they would go further,
Yep.
but they can't afford it.
Exactly.
And then some of them have gone to the limit of their gone all the way through with no limit,
Right.
but the body gave out. Like,
Yeah.
then they couldn't take it anymore.
Right. And it's really hard to know where to draw the line because
Yeah.
you kind of get to this point of, well, we can just try one more thing, or it's only $3,000 or $10,000, or like one more round of this, that, or the other thing. And you always think, like, if I do that one more thing and that's the thing, then it's worth it. And
Yeah.
so it's really hard to know where to draw that line. And for us, we ended up, it became increasingly clear to where to draw the line and kind of what we were willing to do. But I will say early on, there was a million things I said I would never do, and expenses I would never incur, and I like did all the things.
Right.
So it's
right.
interesting how your willingness shifts over time. And also, if you identify as like a high achiever type A kind of person, which I do, this for me was one of the first things I wasn't good at.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So there's like this competitiveness to it.
To yourself.
Yes, where
Yeah.
you're like, I will figure out how to get an A+ on this.
Right.
Like #watch me.
Yeah.
And that I had to really check myself with that and recognize sometimes that was what was really hard for me, was that I felt like I was constantly getting an F on a test, and I'm a girl who never got an F on a test. So.
Yeah, and it's not just you, but it's your partner or your husband or
Right.
or people do go through it by themselves as
Yeah,
well, but then
yeah.
there's the medical community that's helping them,
Right.
you know, and then showing back up and finding out that it's, again, it didn't work or there's not a viable pregnancy. Can you tell me a little bit about what the decision was like to begin? Like, where were you when you decided we're gonna try IVF?
So we actually didn't do IVF initially. Well, so I'll
Okay.
kind of give you
Yeah.
the overview. So we, my husband and I were older when we met. When we first started trying to get pregnant, I
Okay.
must have been 34. And in my mind, let me just say, I don't think that's old. But in the medical
Right.
community, that's on the older
Well,
end.
35 is a geriatric
Yes,
pregnancy.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And then my husband is 9 years older than me, so he would have been 43-ish at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
the great thing about being a little older is that we had established careers and finances and things like that. So we decided to get pregnant. We, as again, type A control freak kind of gal over here, had like literally never gone without birth control in my life. And then we go to try to get pregnant, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
Right.
all the wasted
Yes.
resources on birth control for many, many years.
Right?
So, and I will say, part of it, and when you asked a minute ago, like, what do people not know? There's a lot of good laughs in infertility if you're looking for them, and so that's one of them where you're like, this is the universe just laughing in my face right now. So we decided to try to get pregnant after about 9 months of, so I had been tracking my temperature and a bunch of things for about a year in advance of trying, because control freak. So,
A year in advance?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I know. My doctor made this recommendation. I don't think anyone in the world actually does this,
Uh-huh.
except for me. Like, she suggested it might be helpful, so I was like, okay. So I tracked my temperature every day for a year prior to trying to get pregnant. And then when we started trying, after 9 months, I asked the doctor, I said, well, at what point do we do like more testing and things? And she had done some testing for me. There had been some questionable lab work early on. So we knew that was part of the reason she wanted me to be tracking temperature and things. She's like, you need to get to know your body because you have there was some suspicion that I might have polycystic ovaries and some just like things that weren't all clicking in place. So I had gone through some testing, and then I said at 9 months, like, I think maybe, when do you get husbands involved? Like, how long does this have to be my issue only? And so she said, well, it's a little early, but we could have your husband get tested. And so he got tested, and we ended up finding out that we both had things that were kind of crippling our process. And so with that, we were able, her recommendation was that we do ICI and IUI, which is basically they do, it's very much a precursor to IVF. So basically in a doctor's office, instead of having to go through a fertility clinic, you can just take a sample of sperm and have it inserted basically like turkey baster style in a doctor's office though. And so you could do it intercervically or interuterine. So I did 9 rounds of that, and over the course of a year, and we got.
And this is all while like seeing when you're ovulating and checking everything, but you're not on any hormones yet.
No, so I didn't end up having to do because we were able to have my cycles pretty dialed in by that point. So we didn't think that I was as much of the problem as my husband was at that juncture. So so we just kept trying the same thing over and over, and everything was looking really good on my end. So we were like, my doctor was like, I think we're going to get this. We just need to keep trying. So on the 9th round, we finally got pregnant. In that course of that time, so at this point now we're coming up on 2 years, or we're right at about 2 years. And what people don't understand is how day to day your living is when you're going through that. And I would say even my husband didn't get it. That every day you are tracking, like, today's day 13, and on day 13 this is what my body's doing, and that means tomorrow's day 14, and on 14 I should be expecting that, like, every single day you're just tracking these parameters and timelines. And so that and you live in 2-week cycles between, like, when am I ovulating, and then when do I get to take a pregnancy test. And so so we finally got a positive pregnancy test after that 9th round, and I didn't believe it because I had been getting false positives. I had gotten them like 4 times before. Which
at home? Or, okay.
No, at home. My doctor was like, this doesn't happen. Like, pregnancy tests do not mess up. Why do you keep getting these? And it was just this weird, we still don't know why. We can't, like, she's like, I've never seen this.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, I know. Again, super special. So I had a very hard time believing that my actual pregnancy was real.
Right. Yeah.
So I took many tests, and finally at, like, I don't know, 8 weeks or something, I had like a drawer full of tests, and my acupuncturist was like, it's definitely for real. Like, you can stop taking tests every day. So
they're actually expensive too.
Right. So I stopped taking the test, and I ended up having my son, and healthy baby boy, and he's a delight. He's going to be 7 in just a week. So that was kind of the end of that chapter. And then from the moment that he was born, I was immediately in, like, this, holy cow, are we going to do that again place? And if we're going to do that again, here's how long it took before. Do we need to start right away? Like, I couldn't even really be in newborn land with my son because I was already, like, every day that was a hard day with him, I thought, how am I going to do this if we're having to go through this infertility stuff again?
How old were you when he was born?
30, just about to turn 37.
Okay.
So then we waited a couple years and then decided to try again, and then that was a whole nother traumatic situation. And that time we did go straight to IVF, and because my doctor said with my age and my labs were at that point, she was like, now we have multiple factors going on here that just are not favorable for you, so the best use of your resources is to go all in on IVF. And we went into that really thinking we were good either way. I was very firmly of the mindset, like, we already completely won the lottery, so I'm good. Either way, I'm good. And we had a pretty firm boundary around, like, we will spend up to this amount of money. We will do 1 round. The recommendation was for me to do 3 rounds because of my age and my lab work. I was like, nope, we will do 1 round. This is what we're going to do. And it didn't work. And when that happened, I was devastated. Never saw it coming. And so then I had this whole other experience of infertility in a way, like, I had finally been successful in the one way, and then I had this, like, door slammed in my face of, like, this is a test you never get to get an A on. And it took, like, so that, it's interesting because while I was going through trying to get pregnant with my son, every day, not every day, but every cycle felt very heavy and big, and it was all very isolated, and I didn't share with anyone. Trying to get pregnant the second time, everyone knew what we were doing. I was an open book about it, which felt way better, and I can talk kind of about my only one experiences and those two being differently.
Yeah.
But going through, having that door shut on that second one, to me was a totally different level of grief and trauma than going through the first
Why do you
situation.
think that is?
I think I'm someone who doesn't like to be told she can't have something. And also I think that the society just, like, I'm an impressionable person just like everyone else. And so when I see other people's Christmas cards, or other people's trips to Disneyland, or other people playing on the beach, and they have 2 or 3 kids, it's easy for your mind to be like, oh, that's what I could have had.
Right.
And so I've had to do and this is, I mean, I'm lucky that this is the work that I do with women, but I've had to really coach myself around building a life that I love, that is an example of what I couldn't do if I had 2 kids or 3 kids. Like, that's why I'm here today in the studio, because I can leave on a flight at 6 a.m. and be gone till 10 o'clock tonight, because I have 1 kid who's almost 7, and my family can afford for me to be away for a day. It doesn't cripple the family system.
Yeah.
And so I've had to be really conscientious of that. And it's taken, that failed IVF attempt was 3 years ago, and I feel like it's only been in the last like 3 or 4 months probably that I have not had like obsessive thoughts about it every single day.
So you kept your word, you kept your boundary, you only tried it the one time.
Yeah.
So you're not trying anymore.
So no, we're not trying. What happened after that is I went down a rabbit hole of obsessing about fostering and adoption. Like literally the day that we got that result, I was Googling like adoption agencies in Seattle without telling my husband. Because my husband was pretty good. He was like, this is a bummer, and also we're going to be fine.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, totally. And now I'm going to Google a million ways to fix this problem.
I have a couple things I really want to ask you, and I'm going to try not to get lost. But the first one was when you were talking about, you sat down with the doctor the first time, and you said, when do you bring the husband in? Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking about that's an important moment.
Yeah. Because
as women, societally, our role is of mother.
Yeah.